I have often left books alone and studied men a great deal. Mary Ellen Pleasant was one of the first African American millionaires born in the early 1800s, and she credits a lot of her success where she was able to accumulate about $30 million over her lifetime, which is just shy of about 900 million in today's dollars. When describing how she created that wealth, she said that she studied people and she often learned from the decisions that they were making. And she even kind of talked like, "What I wonder what I would have done if I had an education." So, how did Mary get around the people that could help her to amass $1 billion? Well, she often used the fact that she was not concerned as much about what other people thought, but focused on her needs. And we're going to look at 5 things that she did that you can do and that you can learn from to help you to be able to get the same goals and results in your life. Number one is she was not concerned about who got the credit. When she was faced with the choice of being known and like famous and all that other stuff, like that was not what motivated her. For blacks at this time, there was very difficult for them to be able to accumulate wealth and live a wealthy lifestyle without attracting the wrong attention from questions and people with doubts and things like that. So she lived what most people would see as the traditional life of a black then, where she was an in-house servant, she cooked, she cleaned, and that was basically the beginning and end of each of her days. She actually, and some historians say that she chose the households that she worked in based on the ability to listen in on some of the conversations, where she often was cleaning and cooking within houses for people who were busy in investments and owning businesses. It talks about when she moved from the Massachusetts area out to California during the gold rush in the 1850s, and how she picked up the same work there where she was cleaning and she was working within the household where she could listen to other business savvy people talk about what they were doing with their money, and she was able to mirror those for herself. The second tip Mary would give you is just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. So in 1852, while she's living out in California, she makes about $500 a month from various cleaning and odd jobs that she did in the house. She's about 38 years old at this time. She was investing all of her salary in different business adventures that she overheard, like real estate and other things in that area. Her banker, we'll say, was a Caucasian gentleman by the name of Thomas Bell. And so Thomas ended up creating a partnership with Mary that enabled her to be able to accumulate a lot of the wealth that she was able to get. Because again, at this time, it just wouldn't have been seen in a positive favor for someone to have accumulated millions and millions of dollars. Even the $30 million that she accumulated at that time, it was actually the way that she was able to kind of funnel the money around is she allowed all of the investments to be in Thomas Bell's name. And so they were able to make the decisions based off the information that she was gathering, and then she was able to kind of avoid suspicion by the fact that they were in his names in a lot of them. Now, this did end up creating some issues within her life that we'll get into a little bit later, but she was able to enjoy a lot of it in the early going, where she was able to build this massive mansion that was for about $100,000 at the time, which is somewhere north of 2 million in today's dollars. Where she had, it was just a gorgeous place. Thomas and his family ended up moving into that house, and they kind of had their own area, and then she had her area. You can see where she designed the house, where she paid the contractors, where everything was really in her name. It was just the understanding that this is going to draw the wrong attention. Now, interesting enough, it still drew some of the wrong attention in the sense that people started questioning whether she was practicing like voodoo and if she had like a brothel, and then that's how she was able to manipulate everybody and how she amassed her wealth, because nobody believed that she had done this by her own investment savvy and the own work and the money that she was earning. So for number 3 is you want to make sure you're not overly focused on proving other people wrong. Mary could have allowed the fact that people were saying all these negative things about her to influence her, where people are assuming that she was able to get Thomas to be her accountant because she was using voodoo on him, and that she was able to amass all this wealth because she was basically running this brothel. Like, she could have spent a lot of time correcting the opinion of her from people that frankly don't even matter. That these people, the fact that Mary has shown her ability to amass so much wealth is largely because she wasn't concerned about what other people thought. She needed neither the credit nor was she concerned if they misunderstood any of her intentions. She was living a life that she was very comfortable with. She was making decisions where she was investing money in businesses and real estate and golds and precious metals, where she was able to create a life for herself that just was not even fathomable if you really think about it. And so, yes, there are going to be some Caucasians, there are going to be even some blacks that will be jealous of her success, that would credit it to things that had nothing to do with her and her personality. But imagine if she spent a lot of time combating this. Like, how many people do you think she would convert? Probably very few. Most people already have their opinions, and if you really think about the way that women were perceived at the time, especially women of color, then there's no reason to think that she was going to convince them that she was an intelligent woman who was able to understand and make different decisions on her own. Because, as she said, she was busy in the world of studying people, their decisions and their actions, understanding some of this, and she wasn't as well versed on the book smarts. So a lot of people would contribute success with your education and the book smart. And so it would have been a very difficult conversation and it just would have been a waste of her time. It would not have helped her to convert even one person. And so she just kind of kept doing what she was doing and amassing her wealth and working with Thomas, and their relationship continued to grow very successfully. Both of them were very happy with the way things were going, and there was no issues there on that end. And she was able to live a very meek life outside of the big mansion that she had bought, where she was allowing people to perceive her as just a helping hand, and allowing her to kind of float under the radar, if you will. Number four is you want to make sure you're spending according to your values. So one of the cool things Mary Ellen was able to do is she invested a significant portion of her money on a regular basis into helping black families as they escape from slavery to get through the Underground Railroad, to get some land, to start off their own life in this new world of freedom. And it was something that you would imagine is going to be very difficult to explain to a lot of people, that you were funding, fugitive illegal activities. But again, she was not concerned with what other people were thinking. She focused on what it was that she was interested in, what her inner drumbeat and her passions were saying to her. It even says that she gave $30,000 to John Brown's 1859 raid of a federal arsenal, where they were trying to revolt against slavery, where they're trying to arm the blacks so that they can fight for their freedom. And that amount of money roughly will be somewhere around $850,000 that she gave towards this revolt. And it's very powerful when you're saying, okay, I've amassed this wealth. And how did I do that? Well, I did that by not worrying what other people were thinking. I didn't need credit, and I was able to find a lot of success in that. And then she spent her money with the same principles, where, okay, what would be seen as a safe bet, a safe way for me to spend my money, versus what am I passionate about? What causes do I want to champion? Who do I want to help? And she was very instrumental in funding a lot of the work that was done to help slaves legally, and in some cases illegally, free themselves from that bondage and to help them start off their new life of freedom. And that is something that you often have to think about, that the way you spend your money is an extension of your values, right? It's almost like when people talk about someone who gets drunk and it's like, oh, the alcohol was talking. It's like, no, the alcohol is more like truth serum in a lot of ways, where it just exposes more of who you are. And money is the same way. The more money you have, it just shows more of who you are. It doesn't really change people. It's just that that's who was always there. And so it magnifies it. That's really the word that I'm looking for. And so you can see that Mary Ellen, her passion for the black community, investing in it, helping them, and not necessarily getting a lot of credit for it, that was the drive for her. It was often what helped her to be able to feel good as she was chasing her purpose and her happiness, where she focused on her overall needs, and her overall needs were helping other people. That's what she needed. That's what she wanted within her life. And while it may have exposed her and put her life in danger if she was caught, she did not allow that to deter her from doing what she felt was necessary. And fifth, you want to make sure that you have an exit strategy. And the reason that this is important is, unfortunately, Mary Ellen, when she passed, she was broke. She had no money. What happened was, with her investment partner, Thomas Bell, when he had passed, his wife had sued her for all of the money. And so, unfortunately, even though she went to court, even though she had a lot of things that showed like she designed the house and that she paid the contractors and all this other stuff, it was just the time that wasn't going to really work in her favor. So, because their money was so intertwined together, when Thomas Bell had passed, she ended up losing all of her wealth. That the wife, when she sued her, she was able to take it all from her. And so Mary ended up moving back in with some of her friends and living with them. And so it was good for her in the sense that when she was able to invest in her community when she had money, that her community was able to invest back in her when it was all taken away. And so this is a reminder that it's very important that you have an exit strategy. Whether you're talking about your retirement and you're talking about like how long I'm trying to make it, or whether you're talking about the legacy you're trying to leave, or if you're talking about your business and what you're going to do, are you going to pass it to your kids, or are you going to sell your business, or are you going to, like, what are you going to do? Like, you want to make sure that you have an exit strategy in place where you have, wills and trust, and you have a lot of things kind of set up, and you understand how everything's going to go. This even has to do with some of the risk aspect of things, where you're talking about, okay, well, what if I have a, like a long-term care episode? What am I going to do? Am I going to deplete my retirement if I end up getting sick or something? Or am I going to have some sort of risk protection where I can pool risk and take care of my long-term care issues if that comes up? If you're a husband, you're like, okay, well, statistically speaking, men die quicker than women. And if my wife is taking care of me when I'm sick and we're older, well, who takes care of her when I'm gone? These are all things that you want to be thinking of in your exit strategy. And of course, you have to always take taxes into consideration. Uncle Sam, if you don't play your cards right, he's going to get multiple bites of the apple. If you do your best, then he only gets one bite. So you want to plan accordingly so that you live all the days of your life with a very comfortable lifestyle, and that you're also able to accomplish a lot of your financial goals and your overall legacy planning. And so that'll do it for us. If you want your free lifetime millionaire success blueprint, just go ahead to forecasthope.com/opportunity. There you'll be able to download that blueprint. It'll lay everything out for you so that you can make sure when you're doing your planning that you have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. If you've enjoyed this, I just ask that you subscribe. Until next time, I'm Dre. Continue blessings on your journey to become the champion of your dream life. And as always, better self, better wealth.